Welcome to the Vet Farm Network podcast, where our goal is to empower military veterans nationwide to become thriving farmers by providing education, outreach, and technical assistance. And joined with Lais McCartney is in Hancock County, and she is an Indiana SARE state coordinator. So I'm excited to jump in today, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what SARE does and their grant program so that if it's a good fit for you, you might be able to apply for your farm. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Lise, today. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on our show and share a little bit more about what's available to farmers in Indiana.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Kate. Yes, so Indiana is one part of SARE. SARE is a nationwide, including territories like Guam, the Virgin Islands. So it's nationwide in the United States. It started back in 1988 with the Farm Bill because the government knew that producers of farming and they're always pushing that sustainability envelope. And so it's a really cool program. It's basically all about sustainable ag. The mission of SARE is to strengthen communities, increase producers' profitability, and improve the environment through grants and education. So me being in Indiana, I get to talk directly to my farmers. But in every state that you're listening from, there's a SARE state coordinator just like me that you can talk to. Just call, it's on the website, and you can find that person so you can have your explicit and specific questions answered. So what SARE does is we want to make sure that grants are available to farmers to try to maybe something on your farm that you've always wanted to try to do that maybe lowers the risk for you to try. So for instance, let's say you want to see if soil health increases by having chickens go across it compared to not having chickens. So it's a demonstration. You could get paid for your time, and then it's all about that open knowledge that SARE wants other people to learn from so that we all don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And so one of my favorite things going to the SARE website is checking out other farmers or other researchers' projects. So there is at the SARE website sort of a library catalog of all these different studies that have been done. And I found that I don't come from an ag science background, and I found that they're really readable. They're really understandable. There was a really neat one that kind of hit the pastured poultry farmer community by storm a couple years ago, where we all use electrified netting, and that's really challenging and labor intensive to move when you're moving birds every single day, sometimes even twice a day, but at least your birds are moving and you got to pick up each of those stakes. Somebody's got to carry them. And one farmer, I believe in the Midwest, came up with a way to almost have that on. It might have even been made out of old gutters, but it was a way to have a sliding pasture poultry system, not the chicken coop itself, but the actual electrified netting. And they presented at the APA conference, and it was just super interesting. And that took some time for them to create that system and to test out different ideas to see if it worked. And so them receiving that SARE grant gave them a little bit of financial compensation for their time, and then they were able to take that to the masses, to conferences, which was really cool to then share that with the rest of the country. So um, do you ever see projects that repeat, or do people, if they have an idea for maybe like some kind of weatherproofed hog mineral container, should they go first to the SARE website and see if anyone else has done that study before, or does SARE ever allow for sort of duplication of ideas?
That's a great idea. That's a great point. Yes, they want you to go look at that project database because first of all, it exists and it's our taxpayers. We work hard for our taxes and then it's helping us. But you can repeat, especially like if you're in a different region, because every region is based on basically the USDA growing regions. And so you're in the southern region, there's a northeast region, there's a north central region, and there's also the western region. And so all of those will have different intricacies of their environment, and they're okay if you see something in another region and say, hey, I want to see if this works here. You can even duplicate things like that and to see if it works in your area for your region.
That's neat. And so with the SARE grants, the farmer grants, there sometimes on the website there's sort of two tracks. There's one more for professionals, maybe like a grad student, and then there's sort of a farmer-based one. Can you kind of describe the differences? So when you're looking at the website, you would know what grant application to look for if you are sort of a farmer, a producer looking for this funding.
Yes. So the Farmer Rancher Grant is out in North Central region right now, and I'm pretty sure you said in the Southern region it's also out. And a farmer can be self-identified. It doesn't mean you're making money as a farm. You're just farming. It could be a backyard farm. It could be small. And so basically no one's going to look at your budget and see if you're farming, you know. But a farmer can also work with another farmer in our region and get up to $30,000 for a grant working together if they're two separate farmers in two separate farms. I don't know how it is in the southern region, and that's what's nice about the website. Look at that website. There's a lot of information. The professional grants are always usually written by an ag professional. That's pretty broad. It could be someone who has a nonprofit that helps farmers. It could be someone who is an ag professional, like with the Soil Water Conservation District, or, you know, one of our conservation partnership people in your state. It could also be a researcher. And so, but the Farmer Rancher Grant, when farmers write it, they don't, usually those reviewer committees are um, include farmers that are looking at these grants to see if you were going to get awarded these grants. And so they want it to not be too technical. They want it to be pretty basic. You could do bullet points. Ag professionals, they're usually, when they write it, they need to kind of manage the grant too, but they're working with farmers. That's the special thing about SARE. SARE is always about applied research from farmers, what they actually need on the farms. We love our theoretical universities and that they're doing replicated research, but this is special that SARE is always about those applied problems or education that farmers want to share from their farms.
And are the farmer grants one set uh price, or like you can go up to a certain amount of funds, or is it does it vary by project?
So some people don't use, at least in North Central region, I can't speak for all the other regions. In the North Central region right now, our cap is $15,000 per farmer in a farmer rancher grant, and I believe you can have up to two farms. Um, Many people, when they're writing the grant, you always want to think about the end in mind, and you basically justify your expenses of what you think you're going to spend in that 2-year grant. So that can include materials and supplies. It can pay the farmer because we know farmers' time is valuable. We do not mess around with that. You know, put your time in there because you're sharing this knowledge out into the world and you deserve to get paid to do that. It could also be travel if you need to go get some education, or if you're going to go speak to people about part of your education that you're doing for this grant. It can also include some materials, not capital expenses, but some materials like that you might need for the project. And so you would justify that and you add it up to whatever it ends up being. It could be $7,000, it could be whatever, up to 15,000. This is always a reimbursement grant from the government. So you spend the money and then you write in and share your receipts and get reimbursed. Usually that's how it works. And then you always write a report because those databases are because people wrote the reports. They love photos. They love to know how many people came to your activities. And so then within that first year, if you write your report, then the second year you can continue to get reimbursed. So that way it's kind of an incentive to make sure you're reporting.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And so are any kind of value added products included, like meat processing or wash produce systems or anything like that, or is it just the main sort of production, like growing food or fiber?
Sustainable practices are really broad. I probably should have said that the sustainability trifecta based on the USDA actual definition of sustainability. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's all about that social, economic, and environmental dimensions of sustainability. It's a legal definition. And so sustainable practices are very broad. It could be, you know, farmland access, food sovereignty, nutrient management, organic agriculture, value-added indirect marketing. And so, for instance, there's a farmer that did a grant here in Indiana, and they wanted to see if they had a direct beef or meat processing plant. They worked with a chef. They worked with someone who knew spreadsheets. They wanted to find out how many animals they would have to, work on to make a living. And they realized they did not want to do that much work to make a living with that meat processing plant. But that work still exists in the cloud so that people still call them once a month, because when people get the SARE grant, they know that they're there to continue to help people who come behind them. And so they get a call once a month, they said, just to ask questions, because even though it didn't work out for their farm, at least people can still see those numbers and see if it would calculate out for their farm. So yes, value added is huge in the sustainability agriculture. There's so much. It's broad, and I'm sure we haven't even touched all of it that exists.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing when you browse that catalog of projects that have already been completed and were successfully finished and produced using these grant funds, there are what I think of as sort of more the stereotypical like building projects, like creating a thing that makes your farm more profitable or more successful or better animal humane standards or less environmental degradation or something like that. But then there's also some that are animal health based. There are more tech based things and solutions that people have found. So it really runs the gamut. So even if you're listening and you're a veteran farmer who maybe isn't doing a lot of hands-on construction and building. You're not going to invent maybe a new robotic chicken house that's going to move or something like that. There's a whole host of other ways that you could find solutions for bottlenecks on your farm.
I agree. And also, as well as the project database, there's a lot of resources that SARE has published as well. You can see all those PDFs, a lot of bulletins, a lot of books that could help you on your farm that you can search. I love PDF search functions.
And so if you're listening and this sort of sparks an interest, you know that there's some problem on your farm and you want to figure out a way to solve it and then share that with other farmers. What would be the process? We talked about going to the website and checking out the application, but sort of what's the next step after that?
Yes. So SARE.org, go to your proper place in the world and make sure you're choosing the right place. And then, yes, the website has a lot of information. It's a online based grant application, but there is Word document and PDF. So print that out, then look at it and start, writing some notes. Then call your SARE state coordinator, talk to them, tell them that you're going to be sending them your information when you write it through, because they're allowed to read your grant. They're allowed to give you edits, and they're allowed to try to help you make it stronger. Also, just like you said, Kate, go to that database and see what's been done in that same space so that you can kind of build on that growth and just show that you've used the SARE resources to make your proposal stronger. So always then think about the end in mind. It's almost like a map. You want to get somewhere. And so think about what would be successful for you for that grant and then work backwards. Would you like to have field trips for kids to come to your farm? Would you like to have field days to have other farmers come to your farm? Would you like to teach ag professionals about what you're doing because you think ag professionals need to know it too? So just be specific about those activities and just work backwards from what's success to you and move backwards for your proposal. That's what I think is the best way.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And do you need anything like a business plan or anything like that for this? Because I mean, that's kind of separate from you solving a problem. But do you need anything else kind of to do ahead of time with your farm to prove that you're a successful operation?
So basically, all grants are working with farmers directing the work. And basically, like I said, a farmer is self-described. We don't have to have a business plan. You could be a brand new farmer and try for this, or you could be a farmer wanting to try a new method, or you could be a farmer who wants to demonstrate the method to other people that you already use. Maybe you want to make deliverables like materials so people can learn what you've done. So it could be about education or it could be about research. So no, you don't have to have a business plan. Of course, every farmer, it's good for us to have a business plan, and there's a business plan book from SARE that's amazing in the website. It basically has nice worksheets to help you build up your business plan. but you do not have to have that to try for a SARE grant.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time and sharing some of these tips for getting started with this. And for Indiana farmers, when is that deadline for this program?
So the farm rancher grant for the Indiana farmer rancher and North Central region is due December 4th by 4 p.m. Central. And I hope I explained this is a USDA NIFA grant system that was started. So I hope I said that because we just appreciate the USDA so much that they support farmers.
Yeah, this is a really excellent program. I mean, this is one of the most, I think, innovative and useful programs that I've seen. And I think that it's really important that our Indiana farmers uh, take advantage of that and use these funds because these are ways to make us more efficient farmers, more profitable, and just better farmers. And it's important that we don't just stay stuck in doing the same thing and we're willing to adapt and do better. So I really appreciate your time and look forward. And what's that website one more time?
SARE.org, SARE.org, and then go to your specific region. Indiana is in the North Central region. And if you're in Indiana, call me. If you're in any other states, call your state coordinator. They're on the website and they're there for you.
Well, I'm Kate, and thank you for joining Lace and I today on the Vet Farm Network podcast. And we do have a golfing event coming up in November that's going to be really fun at Back Nine Golf and Entertainment in Indianapolis. And we hope that you join us. And be sure to check out our social media, Facebook. We now have Instagram, and we also have a website with our events calendar. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.